called himself an avenging angel was in court today. 41-year-old Jason Vukovic is accused of violently assaulting men with a history of sexual offenses involving children.
KTVA 11's Lauren Maxwell was at the courthouse where Vukovic was arraigned today.
Charges including robbery and assault. Police say he tracked his victims to their homes and attacked them in late June. And they say in one case he beat a man so severely with a hammer that he fractured his skull.
Jason Vukovic, a name synonymous with a form of justice many thought was long overdue. And in 2016, he took matters into his own hands, targeting convicted child predators armed with nothing but a hammer and a notebook filled with names he planned on visiting, and with a 25-year sentence handed down to him that many thought was way too harsh. People would call him a vigilante, but others saw him as a man driven by a moral compass that society seemed to have forgotten. Was Jason a criminal, or was he a man pushed too far, standing up when the system failed to protect the most vulnerable? In this episode of Misguided Reacts, we dig into the life of the Alaskan Avenger, exploring the line between justice and vengeance. But please do me a favor first and hit that notification bell. We're dropping daily. 2025 is going to be a big year for the channel. Now that I got that out of the way, let's dig into this.
So I received some names from people in the community, but I'm also, I'm not an idiot, I'm very smart, so I went and vetted them online first. And a good way to determine if a person is now molesting kids is to go see if they have a history of it. So not surprisingly, 2 or 3 or 4 of the names that I got when I went and checked on the registry, there they are registered sex offenders, which brings to mind the question, why are they around kids now? So, for instance, one of them was convicted of raping his own daughter.
What's his name?
I won't say his name.
Oh, no.
But it's public record.
In 2016, Jason Vukovic embarked on a vigilante mission to clean up his community. His method was simple yet brutal. He would track them down, confront them, and with little warning, and in his words, make them pay what they owe society. Over the course of the month in June 2016, Jason Vukovic carried out these attacks on at least 3 individuals in Anchorage, Alaska. His actions were as deliberate as they were violent, and he left behind a trail of victims that in his mind, and in many others, deserve zero remorse. The media was quick to sensationalize Vukovic's campaign, dubbing him the Alaskan Avenger, and painting him as a vengeful vigilante who had gone rogue. But what many didn't understand was the twisted sense of justice that drove him. To Vukovic, it wasn't about revenge. It was about making a statement that the legal system was failing the very people it was supposed to protect. And while some saw him as a hero, others were horrified by his violent methods, condemning him as little more than a criminal with a warped sense of morality.
Fear is the greatest deterrent for someone with this particular psychological disorder. It's just not possible. They need to be scared to go act on their instincts. That's just.
How'd you get into the guy's house? What's the deal with the hammer?
Well, that's how I got in his house.
You broke your window, pried the door open? Okay, and then you go talk to the gentleman?
I attempted to, yeah.
Okay. What happened? Did you assault him?
He started freaking out, going wild. My intention tonight was to sit him down and find him. His family, nothing like this is what's going to happen. I was giving him some open hand slaps, because that's typically an appropriate way.
So open hand slaps?
To notify someone that what they're doing is extremely inappropriate.
Okay, how many of those?
7.
7 of them? Okay. And then what happened? Did you assault him with a hammer at all?
No, he started attacking.
Started attacking you?
Correct.
Was he attacking you with his fists? Or?
Oh, yeah, he's kind of a big guy. He's pretty big guy. I didn't realize he was like 6'6" and kind of a monster. But let me tell you once again, courage is acting in spite of
So I went and vetted them online first. These that showed up were like patting me on the back and asking me, "Did you get that motherfucker? Did you get him good?" Stuff like that. So they were certainly aware he was flagged as a child predator. And I think there had been prior police reports throughout the course of the month or so prior to that, where they knew that I had been active in what I was doing.
According to charging documents, he told police he found information about his victims on the state's sex offender registry. It's something anyone can do. Names, pictures, addresses, it's all there online, including the place where this man lives.
So the guy hit me in the head 6 times.
Wesley Demarest is one of several men Vukovic is accused of assaulting.
I figured he was going to kill me.
He says Vukovic broke into his home in the middle of the night and beat his head with a hammer.
He said, I'm an avenging angel. I'm going to mete out justice for the people you hurt.
In 2006, Demarest pled no contest to attempted sexual abuse of a minor. He's been on the list a long time.
I get off when I'm 72.
He says he understands why the list exists, but after the attack, he wonders if it offers too much information.
I don't think that their place they work should be listed. I don't think their address should be public knowledge. I think the name.
Hello? Hey, this is Jim Anderson with APD. I got a word from the DA's office that you had some info about Vukovic and what he was doing last time he was locked up.
He was talking to others about where they would go around and find guys that were convicted of child molestation or whatever, and he would tell them that they would provide them protection, but that they were keeping an eye on them, and that they knew who they were, and was trying to recruit other guys to join him in doing that.
So I went back to my car. I had my tool bag in my car, and I pulled out a hammer, and I had a small backpack on, and I smashed out the side light by his front door, and I climbed inside of his house and went in, and it was a fairly large, spread, shut their door. And then I went around to the master bedroom door, and he was trying to shut it and like barricade himself in his room. So I just, boom, kicked the door in. Usually my whole intended purpose would be, honestly, to open their consciousness by inflicting a little bit of physical pain and then deliver a message that sort of behavior is not going to be tolerated in this community.
It didn't take long for the authorities to catch up with him. Jason Vukovic's violent acts were not ones that could be easily hidden, especially in a tight-knit community like Anchorage. The police tracked him down moments after leaving the house of his last victim, whom he used a hammer, striking him several times in the head. The victim, though, was previously charged with abuse of a child in kindergarten. He was arrested, charged with multiple counts of assault and robbery. But his story quickly spread across the nation, sparking heated debates about justice, punishment, and the morality of vigilantism.
I got molested 50 times. So for me to go run into a child molester and open hand, slap and backhand his face 50 times and give him a lesson about molesting kids and then leave, to me it was extremely apropos and very righteous and super on point. And I didn't see why anyone would have any issue with it.
If you want my honest opinion, behind the headlines and the sensationalized coverage was a man whose own history of abuse and pain pushed him to the breaking point. But honestly, I don't blame him, because in my eyes, he's a hero and a symbol of hope and humanity. He suffered years of abuse throughout his childhood by his stepfather, and being let down by the system as a child that refused to protect him. His abuser never spent a day in jail, despite being eventually charged and convicted for abusing Jason and his brother. His decision to take matters into his own hands led him to a 25-year sentence. And while the nation debated his actions, for Jason Vukovic, the story of that June month in 2016 was more than just a tale of criminality. It was the breaking point of a man who had been let down by a system that promised to protect him, only to leave him with nothing but his own brand of retribution. And as he sat in that cold, dark prison cell, one question echoed in his mind. Was he a villain? Or had he just become the hero he'd always needed when no one else would act?
This is Jason Vukovic, and I just finished 10 years in prison for hunting pedophiles. Check it out, prison is a hella dark place, but it doesn't compare to the darkness that originated in my childhood. As a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, that shit fucked me up and changed the whole course of my life. First, I learned not to give a shit if I got hurt, and then later on, I figured out how to hurt others. It turns out, if you fuck with the people that fuck with little kids, they're gonna take your life. But if you fuck with little kids, nobody gives a shit. And so while it's great for you guys to see the end of my prison struggle, actually, this is just the beginning for all of us. I just spent 6 months working on a ranch, and it turns out I was totally wrong. They don't beat farm animals. The reason why that's so important is because I used to tell everybody when I was a little kid, I got beaten with 2x4s like a farm animal. When I was a little kid, if some tatted up badass would have booted the door in and beat the brakes off the piece of shit that was molesting me, I would have given a cheer. And maybe then I wouldn't have had to go through so much to believe in shit greater than me. But that never happened for me, and fortunately, I was privileged to be able to do it for some other ones. Now, instead of smashing people down and smashing people out, we gotta build kids up. Calling, or this internal drive to do things as I could, where I could, to help out other people that were victims of this sort of abuse. And so what that led me to do was to put my hands on people and start tracking them down when I heard about them, and I would take care of the business. And this is not something that I just did in Alaska. It's something that I did in a number of states, a number of times. And I'm not going to get into any of the specifics of that, and I'm not trying to glorify all that type of stuff, but that's really what it was. And you know, most states, most places, I would end up moving or leaving, and I would be in a particular state or a particular town, usually not longer than 6 months or maybe a year at a time. And then I would pack up and travel and move on to the next town. So I